What if I told you there was something so simple that can actually make you happier, healthier, and even rewire your brain to be more positive? Sounds too good to be true, right? But it's not. It's called gratitude. So today, we're going to find out why practicing gratitude might be the most underrated superpower we all have, and why it matters more than you think.
I love you, man.
Oh, thank you so much.
I love you. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Very glad and very grateful.
Hey, I'm Erica Conde, and I'm taking you on a challenge that could change everything. Not just for me, but maybe for you too. I'm on a mission to unlock the power of gratitude and see if it can actually make us happier, rewire our brains, and impact our lives in ways we've never expected. For the next 3 days, I'll be exploring gratitude from every angle. Psychological benefits, its effect on our brains, how it impacts our society, and finally, a personal challenge to express it myself. I'll be talking to Rutgers experts and trying exercises that might push me way out of my comfort zone.
Yeah, so gratitude is this idea that it has an emotional component and an intellectual kind of component. So it's sort of this idea that I kind of focus intentionally on something, and then it affects me, positively, negatively. And with gratitude, what we find is that gratitude, this emotion, is usually connected to focusing our attention on what's happening in the moment or in the day.
So it's not just about saying thank you, right?
Right. I think a thank you is a way of acknowledging gratitude for something that somebody did for you. It's about noticing the good in your own life, even if it's something as simple as being here today or completing a task. Being able to notice those things that are actually present that sometimes can counteract that negative self-talk that we might have, or those negative things that are happening in the messages that we're getting from ourselves and others.
What really stood out to me is that gratitude is more about being present and noticing the good every day. It isn't just practiced, it's a tool for managing stress and boosting our mental health. And the best part, it only takes a few seconds. These tips made me realize how gratitude isn't just about the big things. It's about noticing the small, often overlooked acts of kindness in our lives. Being a student can be so stressful. I'm so busy with everything, going to class, doing homework, studying, working part-time. I feel like I have no time for my friends or my social life. And do you want me to add gratitude? I guess the real question is, how can students balance practicing gratitude while staying productive?
Thinking about all these negative things, but I start to think about, okay, I'm here today. I got this done, I got that done. Those small things that happened in the moment that I can think about that can shift my attention from perhaps the stress that's mounting or the anxiety that's happening around me. So it's this idea of just being able to shift our attention to focus on something that we would say, oh, wow, that makes me happy, or that makes me calm, or it brings on an emotion that really helps us to feel a little bit more settled.
Dr. Mattis, thank you so much for joining me today. I'd love to hear more about the benefits of practicing gratitude. What can it do for us?
We know that gratitude is associated with a lower likelihood of depression over a lifetime. We know that gratitude is associated with a lower risk of anxiety over a lifetime. We know that people who are grateful experience recovery from health crises much more quickly than those who are less likely to experience gratitude. So gratitude is associated with better sleep quality, with more time spent exercising, with better interpersonal relationships. So the people who are grateful and express gratitude tend to have relationships with others where individuals see the grateful individual as much more likable. There are relational as well as physical health and mental health benefits to gratitude, and there are good reasons for that.
when times are hard and you lost a job or there's like chronic illness, how do you find gratitude in those difficult times?
It's a good question. One of the things that we know is helpful when people are going through really difficult times and they're feeling vulnerable, one thing that can be really helpful is looking back on the past.
Gratitude can act as an anchor, reflecting on moments when others showed us kindness or when things went unexpectedly well, reminds us that goodness exists in the world. This reflection doesn't erase hardship, but it can shift our mindset and offer hope.
We know what gratitude is and the benefits of giving and receiving it, but what's actually happening in our brains when we express it? I'm meeting with Dr. Zald to get inside my mind.
Well, there's several things that are probably going on, and it may not just be a single thing, but one of the really interesting lines of work that's come up in recent years has used functional MRI as a way to look in the brain to say where are changes happening during that sort of experience. And what they do in those studies is they expose people to like a video where they might be watching someone do something that would cause someone to be grateful, or they may have people actually practicing imagining being grateful while they're being scanned. And there's certain areas of the brain where we see changes in activity. So for instance, one of the areas where we'll see is in this area which we call the dorsomedial prefrontal cortex. It's the area that's along the sort of the midline of the brain, in the frontal lobes. And those areas will become more active in those sorts of situations.
So what's going on there? Are there chemical reactions happening?
There are also neurochemical changes going on. And based on studies with animals, there's reasons to think that the opioid system, which is the same system that drugs like morphine act on, that is actually being released during the experience of sort of a reciprocal interaction. And one of the things that one sees when one looks at practices like mindfulness is that the networks themselves shift in the way they're functioning. And so what you get when you start manipulating your own brain is you're actually changing some of those network dynamics.
Wait, so we have the power to rewire our own brains?
One of the things that's characteristic and is kind of amazing about the brain is that it's not just static. There are, just the connections themselves where there's synapses where one neuron's able to communicate with the other neuron. Those synapses are constantly changing based on what's going on. It's just in the case of the brain, a lot of those changes are being instituted by itself. And over time, if you're doing this as a practice, you can become more skilled in how you shift those networks. And of course, you're not thinking, oh, I've got my default mode network, which involves areas such as the area right here and back in here. You're not thinking to yourself, oh, I'm going to activate my pregenual cingulate right now. But you are, in fact, changing those dynamics. Changing how you think is changing how the brain is interacting. And over time, they become more and more habit-like, where you don't even have to think about it because you've got it so ingrained now that you can just trigger it and away you go.
Dr. Zald explained some really cool research about how primates show gratitude by grooming each other. This actually releases small doses of feel-good chemicals or opioids that put us at ease. And here's the cool part. Scientists are studying how a regular gratitude practice can create new pathways and connections in our brain that help us live more positively. Okay, now let's find out how we can put gratitude into practice.
There's different ways that you can do this, and so one thing might just be like a thank you note. You don't have to even give it to the person, but maybe you just write it for yourself. Or you can do some self-compassion or compassion meditations. And so we do a lot of meditation in the work that I do. One would expect that. And so I actually have a chapter in my book about the role of gratitude and how important it is. And lastly, the thing we focus on is how the brain changes with some of these practices. And it's, there's not much we can do in the behavioral health world that actually changed your brain. And this is one example of something that would help change the brain.
So, what are some techniques you recommend to make gratitude a daily habit?
Well, to make it sick just means we're just trying to make it a habit. And there's all different types of research on how things become a habit. One thing I always kind of reference to is brushing our teeth. Most of us brush our teeth at least twice a day, right? Yeah. And we do that to prevent cavities. And so how do we think about doing something inherently in our schedule? And so maybe we could even practice gratitude while we're brushing our teeth, being thankful for our teeth. Have you ever thought about that?
No, I've never thought about that. I think I have more gratitude for my toothbrush now.
See?
Nobody likes bad breath. Nobody likes a bad attitude. Dr. Pete's advice really stuck with me. Gratitude doesn't have to be complicated. It's about finding little ways to integrate it into our daily routines and watching how it changes us over time. So I've learned all about the individual benefits of gratitude, but I'm curious, how does practicing gratitude benefit the greater good?
Because what we know from the research on gratitude is that when people practice gratitude enough, it becomes a mindset. There's actually documented mental changes that go on. And people who have this sort of mindset of gratitude, they look for gratitude in their daily experiences. So in some ways, gratitude can inspire progress. That just feeling thankful, for example, for our job and experiencing gratitude from our coworkers in the workplace, for example, can motivate us to really work hard and pursue not only our personal goals, but the goals for our community, for our collective. People with the gratitude mindset also look for gratitude. They look how they can positively benefit others as well.
That makes sense, but how do we make sure our gratitude is authentic and not forced?
Well, I think it really has to do with the practice. Doing it over time changes the way that you look at the experiences in your life. So I think initially, you're probably right. It does feel very contrived when you're in some sort of training, or you're working from some sort of workbook to try to experience gratitude. But if you work on it enough, it starts to become more natural. And the more natural it feels, and the more you sort of fall into this mindset of gratitude, you're experiencing it, and you're motivated to find it without even really realizing it. Right? So I really think it really has to do with that practice and that repetition.
Does expressing gratitude create ripple effects? Can one person's gratitude inspire others to feel and share it too?
Definitely. And I think one thing that we see with these in positive psychology and with these sort of positive mindsets is that they tend to be contagious. Sometimes that even involves just seeing another person being thankful for the things that are in those lives. And that exposure gives us the motivation to be like, hey, I wonder what I'm thankful for, right? And that can be something to build on, right? So seeing others, for example, practice gratitude can inspire us to stop and think hey, what are we grateful for, right? And get us down this pathway of developing that gratitude mindset.
So could gratitude actually drive social change?
Yeah, I think so, because practicing gratitude ourselves and encouraging others to practice gratitude could bring people together, right? And inspire us to want to work with one another rather than against one another, right?
Okay, for the past 3 days, I've learned so much about gratitude, and I think it's time to finally put it to a test. Let me call my mom and see what she thinks. Hey Mom, how's work?
Work is going good, how are you?
Mom, so for the past couple of days, I've been actually doing a lot of research about gratitude, and I've talked to all kinds of specialists, and basically they told me that learning about gratitude and expressing it can affect your mental and physical well-being. So I just want to let you know I really appreciate you, and you're the best.
Oh, thank you, Erica. I love you too, honey.
I love you. Have a nice day at work, Mom.
You have a good day.
Okay, bye, Mom.
Bye, honey.
So, after a few days of exploring gratitude, here's what I've learned. It's not just a quick feel-good trick. It's something we can practice, something that can improve our well-being and even reshape our minds over time. And maybe, most importantly, gratitude can bring us closer to the people we care about. Okay, here's my challenge for you. Start small. Write down 3 things you're grateful for. Or reach out to someone. Tell them what they mean to you. It might just change your day or even your life.